Hi everyone! Ravis is here, and today I'm gonna show you 8 mistakes that I do in my sales calls, and I have noticed that some of my salespeople does as well. So today we're gonna cover 8 sales mistakes, okay? And this video is going to be recorded. It is recorded in the beginning of the May, so it's 30th of April 2024. So this is going to be pretty fresh, and I guess that should help you with your sales as well. So number one, skipping that discovery. I hope you already know like the parts, how out of what the sales calls consist. First of all, it's a discovery part, most important one. Then we have a pitching part where we're pitching our services. And then, of course, it's the closing part when we are doing the negotiation with our prospect and trying to close the deal with the client and keeping him accountable. So sometimes there's the situations when the leads come from the sources like organic or maybe referrals, or the lead comes to you and maybe that potential lead or the meeting is more qualified than all the others that you've met before. And big problem is that sometimes when we see somebody who's like kind of a little bit more committed into starting working with you, and he's like almost like translating, like channeling the message to you that he's ready to buy. The closer and me, sometimes I'm like, okay, I see that this guy is like a pretty warm and he's like kind of ready to buy. And then you are like, okay, so he's kind of like checked. I'm gonna save my time on this part of the sales call and let me just present him with an offer and with the pricing, okay? And the big problem here is when you actually do it like this, sometimes it backfires to you. What happens? Suddenly some obvious objections come up, like the prospect actually is not ready to buy right now. He's like, oh, okay, I know the price, I'm gonna move on. And then you're like, and you don't have nothing to say because you haven't done your homework. You haven't asked the prospect why he wants to move, what problem he wants to solve, etc., etc. Or the prospect says thing like, that it is not the priority for him. So if you haven't done your homework once again in the discovery, and you haven't figured out why is it important for him to do it right now, you cannot like argue with him. So basically you just let him out of the call. So, and just to give you another perspective that I gave to my sales team today, is that pretty often when you meet with this type of a person, like who's ready to buy, and or maybe at the level outside of your sales avatar, that's a little bit more wealthy usually, and you are like, okay, this guy most probably know already everything about what we're selling. I'm just gonna present him with the solution and with the price. But you need to remember that to every single step of the like every step of the avatar that can be, like instance for us, like for if you're taking a coaches as a clients, we have like a first, there can be various levels of the coaches, the ones who just starting, okay, or just learning to be coaches, okay, learning, having their first like second clients, those ones who are already making, I don't know, like a $5,000 a month, and those ones who are making a $50,000 a month, okay. And if you're targeting one particular like layer or avatar of your customers, and suddenly somebody from the like the next stage of the evolvement of that coach comes to your meeting, you sometimes assume, and me, like I'm basically talking about me and my team, we assume, okay, this guy knows everything, and we pop in the prices. But we still need to do the discovery, and we still need to try to figure out whether we can actually help to that prospect, and if we do, then present with our offer. And you need to remember that even though for all of these like levels of like coaching development avatars, there's a company who's actually trying to sell to exact those to exactly those avatars, and when they come to the meeting with them, they still do the discovery, they still do the diagnostics, and they're still trying to figure out the reasons why they want to move. So the question is why you want to skip on that, okay? So this is thing number one. So the problem number two is disqualifying your prospect or the meeting just by receiving some strange answers. And I've seen this like as a common thing. Sometimes you pop into the meeting, you know, you had a lot of things going on, like in the beginning of the day, you're taking one meeting, you're taking the second one, you are a little bit tired, and suddenly the prospect appears in your meeting and you're asking him a question. Hey, bud, like, what's your problem? How can I help you? And he's like, oh, you don't know, I don't know, maybe I don't even need help, so I have this problem, I have that problem, etc., etc. And then at that particular stage, you kind of have this, like a picture in your head, you're like, damn, I'm freaking tired, and this guy actually don't know what he wants, so there's going to be like a freaking long way for me, you know, to go and try to find out what is the problem, and plus he's not having, you know, the surface level thing that we're selling right here, so I better just disqualify him and just then go and hang around like somewhere in the office, I know, or take a nap or do whatever, you know. And these things happen, you know, and later on I open the Zoom meeting recording, I just review it, and I see clearly, you know, that there was that uncommon answer to like the question that you're asking, and there was no intent to actually get deeper with the prospect, trying to find out what the person mean by that. No intent to actually cover all of the rest of the things that we can help with, and kind of run the diagnostics and just disqualifying the prospect. And sometimes these type of the prospects is one of the best ones, you know, because they're having they are not having default answers to the questions that you're having. They're having tough challenges, and if this is the thing that you help with, so you shouldn't give up on your prospect. You need to continue asking the questions and trying to do your diagnostics. Hopefully you are having a document, you know, with we talked about the discovery previously, okay? So list of the things that you need to actually ask to your prospect to have a full picture, okay, on what's happening with the prospect, okay? And as soon as you're gonna have this full picture about the prospect, the next thing you need to understand whether your service actually fits the challenges that the prospect is having, okay? And only then make conclusions, okay? So eventually the rule should be like this. If you come into the meeting, you should spend at least, you know, like 20, like maybe 15 or 20, 30 minutes of actually running these diagnostics, talking with the prospect, and trying and figuring out whether you can help to him or not. So the third mistake is being too much rational, okay? So, and this is something that I needed to face like really hard, because at the beginning, like when we were combining our sales script, like 1.5 months ago, you know, I was trying and thinking, hey, so we're selling the client attraction method, okay, using the meta, we're selling the offer creation, okay, let's go. So we need to explain to the prospect what is that offer, what the offer value is, you know, from different perspectives. So with this one, I haven't done it like too complex, because we have like kind of one picture that illustrates, you know, like what is behind how good offer and bad offer looks like, with some good examples, and that's it, okay? But when you are trying to actually explain to somebody what is meta and how like paid ads can actually help scale your business and generate your clients, you can overcomplicate that. And I even crafted like a 10-minute explanation how meta ads is much better, you know, than all of the other sources where you can advertise, especially for the coaches and all of the other. And of course, like most of the calls don't have this information, but if you're gonna roll out and try to somebody to explain like realistically what is the big difference between Meta, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn, all other sources that there's on the market, it's gonna take like huge amounts of the time, and it's gonna take like such a big portion of that attention level in your prospect. So most probably at the minute third, okay, he's going to be out in the space floating near the Mars, you know, and already thinking what he's going to be cooking, you know, today evening or doing next weekend. Okay, so this type of the things is like most probably shouldn't be delivered at your sales conversation, or they should be really delivered really simple, not in 10-minute monologues. Okay, so this was our mistake, and then I understood. I watched some videos of other guys closing, and I tried to close some deals from like myself, and I understood that it's not only about like small bits and pieces and how the things work. Okay, it's not about like my BMW and how all of the systems works there. It's about the feeling when I'm driving that car. So with that being said, you need to think and reevaluate how much of in your sales calls are you talking about emotional side. Okay, and when I'm saying emotional side, how big are you talking about that attachments to that outcome that potentially prospect can get out of cooperation with you? Like in our case, we help like attracting customers, therefore generating the meetings, leads, meetings, the deals, the revenue. And we need to, like, the thing that I've learned, I need to talk more about the emotional outcomes. What they're going to do with that money, okay? What's going to be the investment? What is that time freedom that's going to give, what that time freedom is going to give to the prospect, okay? And in some of the cases, if you recall, like the first thing that I was talking before, when you are talking with somebody who's just starting, they are not in that business game, you know? If your avatar is the beginner, okay? For them, more often that emotional perks that they're gonna get out of that income is gonna be much higher and will have much bigger weight than for somebody who's already doing like a 50 grand and he wants to start making, I don't know, double, but it's gonna be making with your company 60 or 70 grand. Well, yeah, that's a reasonable increase, but do you think like their life is going to change like drastically and they're going to be like twice as happy? No, for sure not, you know, because there's like enough evidence in our world, you know, and I'm not going to dive into that numbers, you know, of like, there's like this research, you know, of, by the way, I'm just going to give it to you. So there's a research of how the happiness level changes to somebody who won like a jackpot, you know, in the lottery, compared to somebody who lost the ability to walk. Okay, so their happiness levels is like in the different spaces. Okay, one's really happy, another one is like really sad. And I can't remember the real data, but I guess it's like 9 months. The level of happiness of their life is like kind of at the similar level. So when you're trying to explain to somebody who's going to be generating, you know, maybe 10% more deals in their company, and you are explaining to them from the perspective as that 100K, you know, would be to somebody who just started compared to somebody who's already doing like $1 million a month, that's going to be like a total different like value to that for these two type of the person. So the mistake number 4 is actually not diving deep into the numbers and not trying to figure out the bottlenecks and trying to search for the problems, okay? So just recently, actually today, I reviewed one call with my team, with the guy who was doing the coaching business, and the way of how he was attracting previously customers was the webinar, okay? Nothing unique. We already heard about these models, you know, and what was the intention after that webinar was to book the meeting with that guy, okay? So he got the people on the webinar. He actually had the diagnostics in a file with him where he got 40 calls from that webinar. He had like a 50% show-up rate, so 20 people actually showed up for the meeting, okay? Showed up, and out of these like 20 people, he managed to close 4 deals, okay? For simplicity, we're gonna take consideration that his product was worth of 10 grand, so he made like 40 grand out of these deals. Okay, so and at that stage my closer comes into the meeting and he's like, oh, it looks like you're doing like pretty good, and the input in terms of the ad spend wasn't more than like a 5 grand a month. Okay, and the cash collected from that was, I guess he collected like half of that, 20 grand. So he took a look at this equation. He was like, okay, seems that you're doing good, so sayonara, see you like whenever you need my help. But most probably the prospect is never gonna come back and never gonna talk with us because he don't know how we can actually help him. So there's like a lot of things that can be improved in this equation. Okay, so if you want, you can actually pause this video exactly at this spot, okay, and tell me, write down at least like 1 or 2, 3 things that you see that can be improved right here based on the metrics that you see in front of you. Okay, so if you keep watching this video, so first of all, I'm like, what I would want to know, okay, of how much webinar attendees there were at all. Okay, so let's imagine there was like a 400 webinar attendees at this particular stage. Okay, so that means that 10% of the people actually booked the call. Okay, out of 40 people, 20 people just shows up. Okay, 4 sales, that's 40 grand of the revenue and 20K of cash collected. Okay, and I would say that there is a lot of improvements that can be done in this particular example, and I'm going to show where and how we can help, and actually I can actually on a high level even explain where I can take and do 3 improvements in this equation, and most probably we're gonna get the increase of the revenue of X2 or X3. I haven't even calculated that, but let's see how that's gonna go. So the first thing that like brings the curiosity is amount of the people that booked the meetings from the webinar is pretty low. Okay, I would want to maximize the output from these webinar guys that actually attended the webinar, and if I would have the resource to actually meet with them, not just doing the cherry picking and meeting with like every single person, yeah, like just meeting with those ones who were the motivated ones to come to the meeting, but I would want to extract the maximum value from everyone. I would love to talk with every single prospect right here. Okay, if I don't have my time resource, of course I would just bring in the setter who would do this who would do this thing for me. Okay, so and most probably that out of these like a 400 attendees, I could get at least another 40 sets from there. Okay, so let's imagine that I would make like just by calling to them. Okay, and there's different ways of what we can do with those webinar attendees. Okay, we can build for you an email sequence that's gonna feed all of these people, you know, within like a week, within 7 days, within 2 weeks, maybe within 2 months. We have a customer who's working with the attendees like in the 2 months in a row and sending them 60 emails to re-engage with them. So email sequence, if you don't have a research, we can build for you like a WhatsApp sequence that's gonna help to re-engage with the prospects to get them to the meeting. But the most efficient thing that I think we can do is actual calls. Okay, so just calling to all of the prospects as soon as the webinar finishes and try to pull them in for the meeting. Let's imagine we will get 40 extra meetings. How much of money that would be? That would be extra 40 grand of the revenue, okay, or 20 grand of cash collected. Okay, what else? We did this improvement. Okay, the show up rate 50%. The industry standard, referring back to the Mosey, 75% show up rate. Okay, so what we could do instead of, and now I want to understand what exactly you are doing to make sure that the prospect is actually coming to that meeting. Okay, how many days in advance you are booking the meeting? What are you sending to prospect prior to the meeting? what are you sending to the prospect at the day of the meeting. And there's a crucial steps that can be done that keeps our show-up rates around 70-80% rate. So by implementing, just re-engaging the strategies, the simplest strategy that you can do, day before the meeting, you just can call to all of the prospects and make sure that they're gonna come to the meeting. And if that's not the case, so you can convince the prospect either to come to the meeting, or what you can do, you can like free up that slot and have another booking, because that's valuable. When you're having back-to-back meetings, every no-show, that costs you money, brother. So if we would get that up by 25%, that would be another extra 10 people that would show up for the meeting. And considering the closing ratio of what we had like a 20% closing ratio here, like 10 meetings, that's 2 extra deals. 2 extra deals, that's 20 grand in revenue and 10 grand cash collected, okay? Perfect. So we already made, how much we've made? 60K revenue so far, and 30K cash collected. Let's move on. Here, 20% closing ratio, okay? So here is the biggest game, because there is closers who's actually managing to close 2 deals out of 3. There's big guys in this industry running the businesses, million businesses, closing almost every deal, like 9 deals out of 10 meetings, 8 deals. So this one, of course, is not so easy to, it's not that easy to improve, like just with one simple like thing and tactic, but most probably things like risk reversals, okay? And by risk reversals, I mean something that's gonna make sure that the prospect is gonna succeed with your product or with your service during the call, like a money back guarantee, like lifetime service or lifetime help or whatever, you know, can help them to make the decision on the call. But mostly what I've heard is just ability to handle the objections, okay? So, and I'm like past almost 3 years, like on a daily basis, not only on a weekly basis, reviewing the sales calls, okay? Some weeks more, some weeks less. And one of the biggest drivers and one of the biggest separators from like a good closer from a bad closer is ability to actually make the loops, like doing the tie downs, making sure that you're working with the right objection, doing the loops enough times, presenting, like trying to bring up from that beginning of the call all of the things that you've discussed with the prospect to that ending of a call, and reminding why he is there, and kind of standing on the fact that you want to enroll that person and you trust in that particular person, is one thing that separates them like totally different from the ones who just hear the objection and either they're like, okay, I'm gonna contact you, that's like a bullshit, or the ones who's like, okay, I have an objection, I need to use this word track, like that doesn't work, so Rav is not gonna smack me for that, you know, that's it, I move to the next prospect, you know. So, and this is a big differentiation. Objections, whether you handle them and who's the one who's giving up on that conversation, okay? I'm not the easiest guy on the sales calls to be with, you know, but I'm persistent, okay? I'm gonna live and die, I'm gonna stand and fall for my prospect during the sales call to keep him accountable if this was the thing that he wanted to do, and if I'm actually the one who can actually help him. I'm not gonna give up on the prospect on the call, usually, and you shouldn't neither, okay? So in here, most probably we could increase it at least by 5%, just pulling in some extra deals, and that would be some extra deal right here on the top that would generate in 10 grand and 5K cash collected. So you already see that every single step would already bring us some results, and if we would combine all of these 3 things together, that would result like in even 5x profits, okay? And this is how numbers work, and how do you think, how much this solution is worth of? If you have questions, you can shoot me the message. I will explain, or somebody from my team is going to explain to you, but everything is pretty simple. The fifth problem, pretty simple, is basically not asking how much time the prospect is having for this call, okay? And I'm going to give you like a real life situation when you pop into the call with the prospect and you are like making your best sales call of the day, maybe of the week, and you are all like doing the discovery phase. You are so serving that options and pitching the prospect, and then you jump into the objection handling and everything, and you are like, okay, I'm about to close that deal. And suddenly the prospect says, hey dude, everything's like sounds really perfect, but you know what? I need to run into the next meeting. I'm 5 minutes already late, so I will need to finish it straight away. And this is like the most crazy thing that kills a lot of sales and killed minds as well. I even saw the people just jumping from their seats and rushing out of the meeting rooms to the next one, just by not knowing how much time they have, okay? So of course that's my problem, because we're scheduling in our calendars usually 45-minute meetings, nor do we know that we have 60 meetings for that, but on average our like a closing call takes around 75 to 90 minutes. And who's guilty for that? Of course, me and our team, because we're taking some things too long, and we're gonna improve this thing. And hopefully soon we can do like 45-minute calls. But so far, to avoid this thing, there's like just tiny thing that I started asking my prospects when I came to the meeting was, hey, so by the way, like what time is your next meeting like happening? And then they clearly told to me either they, oh, I don't have anything after that, so no worries, let's be more relaxed. Or it's like, oh yeah, my next meeting is in 45 minutes, okay? So then I understand how I need to structurize my sales call, so the plans of the other person is not interrupting with my objection handling or with my, like a pitch at all. So with that, having like with this information in my head, by knowing how long my meeting is actually taking, and if I do know that the prospect is having 45 minutes, my job is going to be to do the discovery, the first part, and pitching on the high level the person, and then scheduling the next meeting, if that's the case, okay? But usually people is having like more than 1 hour, so I know when I need to finish, so I kind of try to squeeze into things, try to cut some rumbling, you know, and just get to the point and making that sale. So the sixth mistake is forgetting to ask whether the person is the decision maker, okay? You come to the call, you talk with the prospect, he sounds really friendly, everything is good, you pitch him, you told him the investment and everything, and you kind of have a feeling that he's gonna pull the trigger and make the payment and sign up the contract, but suddenly he pops out something like, hey man, I need to talk with my business partner, and all of that things. And that ruins a lot of sales. While there's still the ways how you can handle that thing in the future, I'm just gonna give you an opportunity how you can deal with that, where, of course, in the discovery stage. And how you can do that is pretty simple, is by asking simple questions. Are you the decision maker? Are you the only decision maker in the company who's making decisions like for these type of the solutions, okay? And if that's the case, okay, perfect, okay? And depending on what you're selling and to whom you're selling, well, this is going to be a pretty easy one. Like, we are working mainly with the coaches, and they usually are alone. Sometimes there's like partners and spouses involved in that. And if we understand that this is a stay-at-home mom, sometimes it's reasonable just to ask like, hey, do you take a counsel out of like with somebody like with these type of decisions? Maybe you're like talking these things through with your husband or partner, and if that's the case and the person says yes, I usually want to like make another extra 1 or 2 steps, well, where I ask, okay, so does your husband know that that you are on this call? And if, based on the answer again, if he knows or he don't, you know, I want to kind of get out the information that he supports her in the things that she's doing. So if she's going to present me with an objection later on, she needs to talk with him, etc., etc. I can remind her that, hey, but you told to me that your partner or husband is actually supporting you, so most probably you can go with this solution. Okay, and this is important to, if that's the business partner case, to understand whether this type of the decisions isn't being made solely, can be made by that particular person, or if that's the partner case, whether they have the support for this thing and they are not on a secret mission on this call. Mistake number 7, future pacing the failure. So usually we want to talk about the good things on the sales call, you know, when you are talking, okay, how this solution is going to help you, what you're going to buy with the money that you're going to earn, you know, and all of that good, bright stuff, you know, but we want to avoid talking about the things, you know, what might happen if there would be no results, okay? And this is something that I'm like trying to implement into my sales call and into my sales team just recently. We're kind of trying to understand of what is going to happen like in 3, 6, or 12 months if you will fail, okay? And why is that important? And usually we ask these type of the questions after we're talking about the goals, about all of the good stuff, you know, about all of the people that's going to be impacted when you're going to actually get the results and everything. I want to talk about what's going to happen if person is going to fail in 12 months. Okay, and I just had the call yesterday where one lady said to me, she said like, you know what, Ravis, no, there's no problem. Nothing's gonna happen. I've been down in my life like so many times. I don't care. The government is gonna pay my bills. And at that particular spot, I understood that this person most probably is not gonna be ready to buy, but I was still continuing with my sales call, and obviously I didn't close the deal. But I've heard some good things at this particular spot where people were like, you know what, it's going to be like a bullshit situation for me, you know. I will have big problems, you know, this is not going to fly. People is going to take a look at me and they're going to be upset, you know. I will don't prove my family that it was worth of doing that, you know. The investment for this business, the years I studied this coaching, etc., etc. And here's like a valuable thing coming out. And this is valuable to actually recognize these consequences during this sales conversation for the prospect when he's at the meeting, okay? This is something that's going to help you to get rid of those, I want to think about it. Because the prospect is going to remind and bring up this thing, and they're going to remind this thing to themselves during that sales call, okay? Is it easy to get this thing out of the prospect? Most probably not. Can you get it in the first 5-10 minutes in the call? Most probably not. Okay, but if you have a good connection with the call and you're asking this at the end of your discovery, this can bring you a lot of valuable information to understand, you know, the motivation like behind for this prospect, and then you can bring this up and just to clarify whether the prospect really wants to hesitate and want to put this into the waiting box, you know, and thinking box at the end of the call, considering the fact that they brought up just previously. And the last mistake today is not being detached from the outcome of this call. Okay, I'm gonna write down here detachment. Okay, so this is really important thing, and I'm just learning this just recently, and I'm trying cultivating this in my team. When you're jumping from one sales call to another sales call, you know, and some days there's days when you can't close a single deal, you know. And if you are taking that negativity with you, that you can't take that one deal, another deal, like a third deal, and then fourth deal, you know, that doesn't help you, you know, the next day, the next meeting, etc., etc. And if you have an ability to step into the meeting where you actually don't care, like on a on a high level, you don't care about the outcome of this call, while you should care because you want to make the commissions, you want to help to the prospect, you want to help the team, you want to help the company to grow, but you should be detached from the outcome because you're not the God. You can't make decisions for other people that they should make on their own, but if you can detach yourself from the outcome of that particular conversation, and I can tell you exactly at what spot in your a sales life cycle you were there, usually, and the salespeople who's doing their best month, when they're having a lot of closed deals, a lot of money collected, a lot of enrolled people, a lot of enrolled customers, they're talking a little bit differently in their sales calls. And this is the position where you are when they are a little bit detached to the result, to the outcome of the conversation. They're like, oh, okay, so I'm already good in commissions of this month, as everything is going to be perfect, and they're not too pushy in the call, okay? They're a little bit more slow. They're a little bit more professional sometimes. Maybe somewhere they're a little bit more pushy, and that what buys the curiosity of the prospect. While I'm not saying that you need to act like you make the million dollar commission this month, I want you to think about the idea that you step into the call not trying to close the deal or sell to the prospect, but you come into the conversation with the prospect to actually help him. And he's the person that requires the help, not you. It's not about you trying to sell to him some funky stuff, okay? It's about the prospect, and he is there to get your help. And the question is whether you will ask the right questions, whether you will see that there's a real potential, and will you keep the prospect accountable to what they said to actually make that sale happen. And that's it. And this is one of the mistakes that can ruin your days, weeks, and sometimes even the months. And it is much easier for you to step out of the meeting and move to the next meeting by just admitting the fact that you did everything that you can do to actually close the deal with the prospect, but you just couldn't do more. By the way, if you think that you did everything in your sales call and you couldn't close the deal, just shoot me the message here or below this video, or privately, or send it in my Instagram account, and I can review your sales call and say whether there was some things that could be improved. So this is it. These were 8 biggest mistakes that me and my sales team is making just recently. You know what? We're going to be prepared. We're going to work on these mistakes. And I would really appreciate if you would take time to watch this video and actually try to fix your sales as well and improve your results. See you in the next video.